Hi, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about something that can be a little bit confusing, and it's two words in particular, and two verbs in particular, and which are also connected in many ways to the previous masterclass that we recorded last week. And they are to lend and to borrow. Now, this can be super confusing, even for high level speakers. Okay. So even if if you're confused by these two words, don't worry. Okay. It is one of those things that you really do need to practice and kind of get completely in control of to really be happy with it. So anyway, I'll let Alistair explain this one because he's happy to explain it to us in a hopefully very clear way, and I will just chip in when the time comes. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, of course, the problem comes from in Spanish is prestar. There's only one word in Spanish, but you use it in a different way to indicate in which direction. Let's say last week we talked about banks, didn't we? Well, we talked about being in debt, having a loan from the bank to buy something, particularly a mortgage to buy a property. So obviously there's a relationship there with money where someone is giving the money and someone's receiving it. So there's a sort of two directions, if you like. Now in Spanish, you can use prestar for both directions. You just have to change the way you use the verb. I think you'd say tomar prestado when you receive and prestar when you're giving. But in English, it's more complicated because we have two verbs. Well, I'd say it's easier actually, but obviously that's because it's my language. So because we have it's very clear in English which one it is because we have two different words for it. To me, I think it's a bit more complicated in Spanish, but obviously for Spanish native speaker, it's not complicated.
Exactly.
They say, why do you need an extra word? Well, I don't know. Seems to me logical because it's two different actions.
Well, that's right.
At least from an English perspective.
Yeah.
So basically, lend and borrow. So the bank, just to give an example connected with last week, the bank lends you money. So they give you money to buy a house, for example, a mortgage. And you borrow money from. There also prepositions are different. The bank lends money to you, and you borrow money from, very important, from the bank. Yeah. So you receive the money from the bank. Yeah. So you are the, let me think, there are actually nouns. You are the borrower. So if you add ER, you get the person who borrows is the borrower. So most of us are borrowers.
Yes.
We've borrowed money from the bank to buy our homes, our houses usually, or a car or something. And the bank is the lender. So if you add ER, you get the noun. No? So the bank is the lender. They lend money to their customers to buy things with the money, like houses with mortgages. So now it doesn't have to be money, does it? What other situations would you have lenders and borrowers?
I suppose like there are different contexts. I mean, especially if we're talking about business sort of situations, you might just borrow a pen from your colleague, for example.
Oh, yeah. Anything.
Anything like you borrow a book, you borrow, it could be absolutely anything at all, couldn't it? I mean, it could be you could borrow
bicycle. I think we covered this in a podcast a long time ago. And you told an anecdote about lending your nephew, is it?
That's right.
A bicycle?
Yes. And then it was stolen.
Yes, unfortunately.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you were the lender in that case. You lent him the bicycle and he was the borrower. He borrowed the bicycle from you.
That's right.
Unfortunately, it got stolen. That's the sad ending.
To the story. Sad ending to the story. That's
so true. It doesn't have to be money. It can be any. Obviously, a library. Here's a common false friend. So a library is not a libreria. It's a biblioteca.
Yeah.
And a libreria is a bookshop. There's a very common mistake. So you borrow a book from the library and the library lends you a book.
Yeah.
Lends a book to you. So it can be, you've got a giver and a receiver, basically. Yeah. It's a relationship between two people or entities.
That's right.
So you just got to get that idea clear in your head, who is lending and who is borrowing.
Yeah.
So the one who receives anything is always borrowing, and the one who's giving temporarily is a lender. No, he's lending.
But there is more complexity to this, isn't there, Alistair, as well?
Yeah, there's always something more complex.
Because if we take the scenario of like two people in an office, I imagine that we're sitting next to each other in the office, and I could say, right, to you. Imagine you've got a pen that I really want, and I need a pen now, because I've just got a really good idea and I want to write it down, right?
Yeah, and you don't have a pen.
I could say, Alistair, can you lend me your pen? I can say
fine.
that.
Yes, I
right?
can.
Or I could say, Alistair, can I borrow your pen?
Yeah, because you've got those two words, you can use both, but obviously you have to get them right. You've got to get the right direction, if you like, no?
Yeah.
Now, in Spanish, this is where people make mistakes, because obviously it's prestar. So you say, me prestas tu boli, por favor, or something like this.
Yeah.
But in English, you've got, you've got two verbs, so you can employ those two verbs. You just have to get them right.
Yes.
Now, so you're borrowing the pen from me, no?
Yeah.
So obviously, in that case, you can say, "Can I?" So you've got to get the subject correct. The subject and the object.
That is it, isn't it? That is it.
Yeah, this is where it gets complicated. You've got to get the right subject and the right object for the right verb. So if I'm lending you my pen, you are borrowing my pen.
Yeah.
There's the relationship. I'm the giver, you're the receiver. Yeah. So therefore, you can say to me, as you said, "Can I borrow?" You say "I" because you are the one doing the borrowing.
That's right. That's right.
Can I borrow? However, if you choose to use the word lend, which is perfectly okay, doesn't make any difference. Obviously, the person lending is the other person.
Yes.
So you've got to change the subject. Can you lend me?
Exactly.
Because you are lending and I'm receiving.
Yeah.
So in a way, your pen?
So in a way, the rule doesn't change. It's still the same. Essentially, you're just making it. You're just using that verb. So the action is the same. You're using two different verbs, but because you're changing the subject, you can alternate those two verbs to mean the same thing in
exactly the same thing. So it doesn't matter which one you use; it means exactly the same.
Yeah,
you can just use whichever. Well, I think native speakers, we just alternate between them without even thinking consciously which one we're using because they mean exactly the same. So it doesn't matter. So, 1 minute you might ask one colleague, "Can you lend me that book?" And 2 minutes later, "Can I borrow your pen?"
Yeah.
So
let's go to the common. Let's go to the common mistake here, because, let's say the elephant in the room in many ways, right? Is this sentence that so many of our clients say is, "Can you borrow me your pen?" Isn't it?
Yeah.
Is that what they say? Can
you borrow me your pen, or can I? No, you have to think something. Can I lend your pen? You go, no, because you're not lend. If you say, I think this is the more common mistake, perhaps. Can I lend your pen? Maybe. And the person would say, "Lend my pen to who?" Or to whom, if you want to be very precise. Because obviously, if you're lending the pen, you're taking the pen, you're borrowing the pen of someone, and then you're lending it to a third party.
Yeah.
Which means you're an intermediate. Like some financial institution borrowing, lending, making profits. So it'd be very strange if you said to someone, "Can I lend your pen?" You go, "Lend my pen," but it's my pen.
Yeah.
I lend my pen, not you.
Yeah.
It's not your property. So what you mean is, can you borrow my pen?
Yeah.
So you've got to say, "Can you lend me your pen?" Not "Can I lend?" Because I'm not doing the lending. So you can only lend what is yours. Usually, maybe some exceptions perhaps, but generally, you lend your property to other people temporarily, and then they give it back to you at some point. You hope.
Yeah.
Maybe they never give it back, but they're supposed to.
I think I've got the real one now. I think because the real false friend is where they put me in the middle. Is can you borrow me your pen? Can you
borrow me? Which doesn't mean anything. That doesn't make any sense.
It's very confusing. Yeah.
Can you borrow totally me? Confused. Can you the other one does actually mean something. It's just wrong. It's not what you want to say. Whereas the borrow me doesn't make any sense at all.
No.
Borrow me. How can
I think it comes again from the Spanish construction, probably.
Yeah, me prestas.
Me prestas. Me puedes prestar, sí.
So you got the me, and people just put the me automatically.
Yeah.
Which can be correct or not. You've just got to get the right verb for it to be correct.
Yeah. So in a way, it's kind of, as you can see, it starts out really simple in a way. The whole idea of lend and borrow in so many ways is kind of like you just have to work out the direction pretty much. And, the bank lends and you are borrowing from the bank. Easy, right?
That's quite easy.
That's quite easy. But then the next level is where there's a
when
little
you
bit more
actually have to use it
complexity.
conversationally in a moment.
Yeah.
So you need to write down a phone number, and can't find a pen. You just need to turn to the person to your right. Could be a colleague or could be a stranger even. So, excuse me, can I borrow your pen for a second? Or could you lend me your pen for a minute? I've got to write a number. So you got to use it in that moment quickly.
Yeah.
And that's why it's very easy to make a mistake.
It is. No question. Good. Alistair, love that one. Really nice.
So of course, the challenge is try to use those two verbs in some kind of story, anecdote, work-related, non-work related, but get them right. Obviously, use them in the right way with the correct subject. Try to use both if you can.
Yeah, good. And then, of course, we'll practice it in the live sessions as well. Yeah. Good. Alistair, thank you very much. That's always a bit of a tricky one. I like the way that you explained that. And I also like how we separated that into two different levels. Because, as I say, it is quite easy to get the first level. The second level, where you can swap and change, that I think is a little bit more, depending on the subject of the sentence, I think is a little bit higher level. Yeah. Good.
Okay.
All right. We'll speak soon. All right.
Yeah.
See you then.
Cheers.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.